Welcome to the easy hiring sheet that I have here. I'm going to walk you through a couple of things here, and really this is just to help you all understand how the workflows work for automating the hiring process, right? And the easy hiring process. So what we have here and what I'm going to walk you through is the easy hiring cycle roadmap. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what everything means in layman's term, and then we're going to break down the workflows, how to switch them on, what they're used for, and all that sort of stuff. So first things first, we're just going to walk through the hiring stages roadmap. So really when we're thinking about hiring, it's exactly the same as lead nurturing, except for getting leads, we're getting applicants for our job posts basically. So the stages are pretty much exactly the same. We've got candidate traffic, we've got survey, new contact created within the software. We're going to send them a culture fit email, initial interview invite, initial interview. We're actually going to host that interview. Then we're going to send them the skill test invite. Now, depending on the position, you may just from the initial interview go straight to final interview, or even just to offer potential straight away. Otherwise, for a lot of the positions, you want to send a skill test, and we'll get into what that looks like in a little bit. Then into final interview, offer potential, which is just the period between having that final interview and then having an offer. You always want to have a couple of people in reserves. If your main person that you really want to hire falls through or something happens, then you have some people in the offer potential to potentially then hand out an offer to, drafting out your offer. Once that's all signed, then moving them to the hired, and then of course onboarding and all the other good stuff that happens afterwards. Now, step one of this entire process is candidate traffic, right? And getting that towards our hiring survey. So we direct all web page. So whether you're putting your survey on your web page, social media page, any job postings and outbound messaging that we're sending, we direct all of the interest to a relevant hiring landing page that basically has that survey on it, right? To submit their hiring survey. You can even embed this into your own website if you want to. Of course, we've got the landing pages already built out for you. So if you're using that, then just, basically sending all of that attention to the survey here. And this survey will collect key contact details and immediately filter out non-fits based on the 2 or 3 questions on compensation and culture, and it's basically just the basic stuff that's in that first hiring survey. Now, to achieve this outcome, we embed the custom hiring survey onto your relevant hiring landing page. For example, we have a specific landing page for the CSMs. We put the CSM survey on there. Then we might have something for a sales rep or something for a coach. It really depends. And so putting it on the relevant page and then directing all the links from job posts and surveys, depending on the role that they're applying for, to that specific page. Because if somebody wants to be a CSM and then you're sending them something about being a coach, well, then that's a lot of confusion, right? So we want to send them direct to that page, right? There's no barrier to entry, anything like that. Okay, now step 2, we want to qualify the applicants and book them onto the initial interview calendar. Now, the really cool thing about the system we built is that practically 99%, bar reviewing a little bit of culture fit in terms of what they submit in that culture fit email, 99% of this stuff up until hosting that initial interview is fully automated, right? So you just pretty much send out your job posts, things like that, and then just wait for people to start showing up to these initial interviews once it's booked on your calendar. So step 2, we qualify the applicants and book them onto the initial interview calendar. That's all done automated, linked to your Google Calendar as well, so you can see it there. To achieve this outcome, we use automated email to invite pre-qualified applicants to submit their culture test results and further screening. Then we manually filter out applicants by observing their culture test after submission, and use automated email to send a calendar link to the applicants who have submitted a culture test to book a date and time for their initial interview. Now, the cool thing about when you're basically doing these outreach, or not really outreach, but I guess when you're sending these invites and calendar invites, things like that, to applicants, is that you can basically give them the autonomy to book onto your calendar. Whereas when we're thinking about leads, we always want to book them ourselves, on our own calendar. With applicants, it's almost like, because they're applying to a job with you, it would be almost a little bit strange. I mean, don't put it past me, you definitely can, especially if you're struggling, and we'll get into that a little bit later. If you're struggling to get people to actually book in for these interviews, then you definitely should be picking up the phone. But 99%, you can automate this, and you can just say, hey, these are the time slots we have available. Make sure that you select one, etc. All right, so step 3, Then we host that initial phone or Zoom interview. That's just a short 15-minute, can be up to 30 minutes. It really depends. You can even do this as a group. If you're hiring lots of people for a certain position, then yeah, hosting that initial interview, sending a skill test afterwards if they're qualified, and then also rejecting non-fits, and then reviewing the skill test. That's everything in step 3. So to achieve this outcome, we host that initial interview following the proven frameworks. We gauge their basic skill/competency. We do the airport test. Do we actually like this person? Then we sell them the opportunity, because we remember that they're not necessarily lucky to join you. Sometimes it's almost like they have lots of opportunities and you need to sell them on why yours is the best. And then the on-track earnings question as well, right at the end. Now, after the interview, you add the tag skill test to the applicant's contract profile or contact profile to update them on the hiring pipeline and to assign them their skill test, right? So you add the tag onto their profile. We'll go through all of that in a little bit. Or you add the tag unsuccessful to remove them from the talent pool. Then you manually review the skill test and add the tag final interview to the applicant's profile to invite them to their final interview. That's all done, again, automated through email, or to add the tag unsuccessful to remove them from the talent pool. And these manual reviews here are all sent automated as well. So you'll see that underneath your tasks within the software, or whoever you have assigned to this role. They're going to get all of this. You don't have to keep thinking, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. You'll see it on your dashboard and it will be done automated for you. Step 4, you want to host that final interview, move qualified applicants to offer potential, and reject non-fits. So here we're really manually reviewing the remaining applicants and potentially drafting an offer to the best match or matches. So to achieve this outcome, we're hosting the final interview. Again, we're reviewing skill-based assessments. So whatever they submitted here, we want to review that first of all, then just go over the basics of financial expectations, the logistical fit of them being a new employee of yours, and just overall making sure that the expectations are aligned and they fit well with the culture, etc. And then you want to, once you've done that final interview, update the hiring stage. Once again, this is going to be fully automated for you. You just need to either click and drag the applicant's profile to the offer potential stage to update them on the hiring pipeline, or add the tag unsuccessful once again to remove them from the talent pool. And by the way, anytime you add unsuccessful, all that's going to do is that's going to send them an email saying that unfortunately we haven't decided to move ahead with your application, sort of thing. And then that's basically just going to remove them from the hiring pipeline completely. So you're not left with all of these opportunities that you're not actually going to pursue with hiring. And then make a hiring offer. So after hosting all of the final interviews, click and drag the applicant's profile to the offer potential on the hiring pipeline to highlight them as a potential hire. At this point, you haven't sent any communication to let them know this, so they're still left in the dark a little bit. And this is just because, like I said at the start, you always want to have people in the offer potential that you could reach out to in 3, 6, 12 months time and say, hey, look, I know that you interviewed for this position. It wasn't right at the time, or you can say it however you want really, but now we have a new opening. Would you be interested in coming back down, or would you be interested in taking us up on that offer, sort of thing? Okay, now step 5, manually review remaining applicants and draft and submit a hiring offer to the best matches. So this is a little bit more of a manual process here. Up until this point, you've done everything from the starting, sending out the messages, getting the surveys in, hosting that initial interview, doing all the skill tests, culture tests, now having the final interview that's been hosted. Okay, and at this point, you've got hopefully a couple of people in the offer potential, and you just really have to review the remaining applicants and just decide, okay, these are the people that I actually want to bring on board. And then to achieve this outcome, we just need to manually click and drag the applicant to the offer stage of the pipeline to send an offer email. Again, that's automated. Draft up the contract agreement inside of payments. So this is a bit more manual under the contract templates that we already have built out for you. Then fill out the relevant details, send them the employee contract agreement via email. Then we want to wait for the applicant to sign. And then we sign our own sort of section on that agreement, and then manually click and drag the applicant's contact profile to the hired stage of the pipeline. And that's going to update them as hired. So that's basically, from a bird's eye, exactly what we need to do in terms of the easier hiring cycle. Now I'm going to break down the workflows. What I'm going to do, rather than me just sit here and walk through it all with a text on the screen, I'm going to take you through what it looks like in the software. And then from that point, really you're going to be able to see how this thing works in action. If anything does look a little bit different through the workflows that I walk through today, then all I would ask of you is just to read through this document first, because this is always going to be updated rather than what you see on the screen. So don't panic if things that I show you right now look different to potentially the software or anything that you have on your screen. But yeah, just make sure that you also read through this document, because this is where the updates will happen. So with that said, we're going to start off with step one, and that's really going to be creating content or a job post. Now, we're not going to go through all of that right now, but let's just imagine that you have a post existing. Well, we need a way to direct sort of traffics and certain call to actions on those posts, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram, and have them basically, once people have raised their hand to say, hey, look, I'm interested in that job through the job post, then you need to send them and direct them towards your survey on your landing page. So we have particular ways that we do that. The very first thing that we need to make sure that we have, if I was to go into settings here, and I was to go into custom values, into folders, you'll see we have a folder hiring. What you need to do is make sure that under each hiring page you see here, now yours may be different to ours. This is actually our company, EasyFlex is here. So we have certain particular roles that we hire for, but you want to make sure that under hiring page, wherever it is, coach, hiring page, CSM, you want to make sure that you go in here and you click edit custom value. And the value that you put in here is the domain that you've attributed to your hiring funnel / the hiring funnel page that you're going to send them to. So whatever you have put for that, for example, CSM, more than likely is going to be / CSM unless you've made any adjustments. Then what that means is that once we get into the workflows, the link is going to be firing correctly. So that's the very first thing that we need to do. Now, if I was to head into workflows from here, into automation, and we'll speed this up and we'll just get through it. Let's say we've got a few different options, right? So we've got two options. We've got, if we are in our job post, let's say on my Instagram or on my Facebook, I've got a job post. Let's imagine this post here is a job post, goes through what the job is, and then the call to action is, it could be either DM me, CSM, or it could be comment below CSM to hear more about this opportunity, okay, or to show your interest in this job opportunity. Now, let's say that when someone comments here, we have a separate workflow for when they comment, but if they DM, we have a separate workflow for that too. So very first thing that I'm going to walk you through is just a comment. So let's say we'll stick with CSM for now. And the very first thing as well is you need to make sure that this is always published. So click publish at the top there on the top right and save. Now what we have at the top are two triggers. So we've got one for Facebook and we've got one for Instagram. And all you need to do is make sure that on pages, you select your particular Facebook page. Okay, you can select a specific post, but otherwise, if you want this to run through all of your posts, and if you're going to be posting job offers from 2 years ago, and then you're going to continue to use the same thing, hopefully for years to come, you may as well just do it for all of your posts, and just contains the phrase, we put CSM here, as that's the call to action in our job posts, in our hypothetical job posts. Okay, so once that looks good and we're tracking first level comments only, click save trigger. And now basically what this is going to do is it's going to send from that custom values, that link, hey, I'll drop the link to the application survey. Any questions that will let me know. And this is based on if someone comments. So if I was to go in here and comment on this post, now we will have to wait, but I will show you. If I was to go in here and comment on this post, in 90 seconds time, based on this bit of logic here, I will hopefully receive one of these messages, not the Instagram one, it will be the Facebook one. Okay, and that's basically how we start to automate that traffic in step one. Okay, and while that is loading, I'll just walk over to the DM keyword. So the DM is pretty much exactly the same. The nice thing about DM is that you can just put all of your positions in there. So you can just put exact match phrase, and then you can just filter out by the match phrase. So basically, depending on the job position, we can just filter out here, and also making sure they're not active in the application submitted workflow, because we don't want to send applications to people that have already sent them, right? Then it just looks a little bit weird, or if they've already submitted them, I mean. So yeah, so that's really how that works. Pretty much exactly the same message and everything, but this time we're just sending it through DM. Both of these will be sent through DM, but it just depends on the way they've interacted with you. So with this way, they've DM'd you that particular keyword, exact match phrase. So it could be CSM, it could be coach, it could be hire. Typically for coaches, we like to put higher because the phrase coach may be thrown around in the DMs or the comments quite a lot. So you always want to choose a keyword that is less likely to be used on your Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, you're going to be sending unwarranted messages to people, okay? But don't worry about that because it doesn't usually happen, okay? Right, well, it doesn't look like it's going to load. Maybe it's because I've already sent it before, but essentially the link would be something like this. Okay, hey, I'll drop the link to the applicant survey. Oh, here we go. It just came in again, so you saw it in real time there. And then you click on that and we'll get to see ours here. And then really from there, you can see the application process. So if I was to go to next here, and then we could go through all of that good stuff there, okay? But we're going to skip that for now and just get back into the workflows. And let's imagine that, okay, they've either sent us a DM or they've sent us a comment, then they've landed here and they've managed to walk their way through the application process, right? That first initial application. Now, from that point, if I was just to hop into here, really what we have is to wait for the applicant to submit their stage 1 hiring survey. So that's what we're doing now. And if they submit, then the application submitted workflow will start. So from this point, we're going to walk through step 2 here. Okay, so hopping out of here, really what we can see is we have stage 2, application submitted to culture test to initial interview invite. Okay, so from here, we just have all of the surveys depending on the particular job roles that we have. And yeah, the trigger is very simple. And then we just select the survey there, make sure it's the right one. And then if we zoom out a little bit here, we'll have the condition based on the job role once again and survey submitted. So from this point on, we just want to update them on the hiring pipeline to make sure that they are at the application submitted stage. And then we just want to go through some basic qualification. So do you have experience? Do you agree to the terms and the pay rate? Can you work the hours required? Things like that. If they're saying yes to all of these things, then we can basically say, yeah, they're qualified. If they say no to any of these things, we just want to go ahead and remove the opportunity and remove from workflow. We don't even want to waste time with those people because if they've said no, they can't work the hours, well, then they're not going to be a fit. So we're not going to move forward with the initial interview. So this entire process is just filtering down applicants to make sure that when you show up to at least to those initial interviews for that 15, 30-minute Zoom chat or phone chat, you're at least speaking to qualified people on a certain degree. Okay, you're not just speaking to anybody. So from there, what you'll get is a culture test email that's going to be sent 8 minutes after they submit that first survey. So it obviously makes it look a little bit more realistic. And depending on the position, there's going to be different types of culture tests. You definitely can create your own. We will create some templates for you, and we have some templates for you. But basically, the way that this is sent is through a trigger link. So, dear contact first name, thank you for taking the time to submit application for our success coach position. Complete your stage 2 application form. So, with the culture fit, I was getting a little bit confused with the skill test. Okay, with the culture fit, really what we're looking for is just to see who they are, why they actually want to apply for your job. And really the way that we do that is by asking them for a video in some form, okay? Like a 2, 3, maximum 5-minute video explaining certain points, and I'll break through or break down what that survey looks like. So if I hop into sites here, surveys, hiring surveys, and let's get up the CSM one, shall we? Pre-interview survey. So basically at this point, they're sent this through the email, and this is just their application stage 2, essentially, all right? And it just goes through the role, responsibilities, results, mission, core values, and then essentially we just go through a couple of different things. So record a 3-minute Loom video. Loom is just a video software. In the video, answer the following questions, and then we ask them to paste the link to that video so we can just watch it, okay? And that just goes through those 7 points there, and then submit an example of experience. So please provide a link of 1 to 2 of your recent business to business. I mean, this is for us, business to business success or sales calls. For you, you could take this out. You could put something else, submit like your CV or something like that. Main thing is just we're getting a little bit more information about these guys. So when we're thinking about culture fit, this is what we're looking for. We want a short video just to see how they speak, how they are, their enthusiasm, things like that. Because again, we want to use this as a way to potentially filter out people before that initial interview. Now, they will still be invited to an initial interview before you get, or well, while you're reviewing this. So if you review this and you think somebody is a complete absolute no-go, then just make sure that you pull them out of the workflow that we went through earlier, that stage 2 workflow, make sure that you pull them out by adding the tag unsuccessful at any point, and that's just going to remove them from that workflow. Okay, so let's just go back into here. Where were we? Culture test. So up until this point, they've submitted the survey. Okay, they've been semi-qualified through this process. We've sent the culture test email. Again, you can create your own one of this if you really want to. That's sent through a trigger link, and we'll get into those in a little bit as well. Yeah, and so basically what we're asking them to do is to submit their responses in there. Okay, so in terms of how you would assess their responses and how that all works, let's hop out of here first of all. So marketing, trigger links, what you'll see is we have a couple pre-interview surveys that we'll need to fill in. And we get the links of those by going to sites, surveys, and then if we click on the actual survey, preview or integrate link, grab that link, and then make sure that any of the pre-interview surveys that you see under trigger links here, make sure that those have been submitted. So CSM would be here, and then we would just put that in like so. Now I'm not going to do that because we already have. But yeah, so that's how you set the trigger link, and that's going to make sure that that email files correctly. And then let's say I go into a contact profile, for example, conversations, all Zack from earlier. Okay, and then so what you'll see is we have a little section here for hiring that you should see. Okay, and hopefully in here you'll see something like a Loom link or any of the custom fields that you put in that survey. You can add different ones if you really want to. But yeah, make sure that you just go through here and you'll see the link there, and then you can just basically copy that into your browser and just watch through it before you hop on that initial interview. If they are dreadful, then you can just cancel that whole interview, just going through the appointments and then just canceling that appointment. Okay, but assuming that everything is all good, we will proceed. And I'm conscious of time as well. I don't want you to watch through this forever, but I want to make sure that you guys understand this process full in full. Okay, so culture test email, then we wait for the link click. This is just to make sure they're actually clicking and hopefully booking that appointment. And then once that's happened, we just want to have a little bit of time to elapse to make sure that this starts at 9 a.m. the next day, just so whoever it is, if it's you or a member of staff that you've assigned to this workflow at the top, so always assigning people at the top, either the interviewer or HR assistant, make sure they have enough time to actually go through that culture test and watch that. I know it's only 5 minutes, but yeah, just to make sure they have time. And then if that exact field in the survey has not been filled, so for example, here I've got Loom link, I've got CSM call example. If they haven't filled that in, then yeah, so if it's empty, then they're unqualified. If it's not empty, then they are qualified, which means we can proceed. Okay, so if they're unqualified, we're just going to send them an unsuccessful email, because again, during these initial stages, we need to be a little bit more brutal, because if people can't even fill something like that out, a very simple survey, how on earth are they going to operate at your company? Okay, but let's assume they are qualified. Well, then we update the opportunity as qualified on the pipeline, or to initial interview, excuse me, on the pipeline. And then we send them the invite to the initial interview. Again, you need to go in here and make sure that this is custom to the role of your facility, depending on this particular branch. This is the success coach position at EasyFlex. So as a result of that, we have EasyFlex success coach here as the position. And just make sure we read through here. And once again, we've got another trigger link to do, but make sure we read through here and everything looks good. Again, taking out things that don't look like they should be there for your particular business, saving that action, waiting for the click for that initial interview calendar. And I'll show you how to get that in a second here. And then once that's been booked, essentially, so condition here, once a trigger link has been clicked and the workflow is active in our next workflow that we're going to get through, which basically means they've booked an appointment, that means we can just remove them from here. And if they haven't managed to book, then we send them that unsuccessful email, because once again, we're removing time wasters. If they can't even make it to this initial interview, then how on earth are they going to operate at your business and company? Okay. Hopefully that makes sense in terms of stage 2. I'm going to quickly show you how you would get the calendar links. So into calendars here, calendar settings. And then what you should have is an initial interview and then also a final interview slot, especially if you're going to be doing final interviews via Zoom as well. But initial interviews, you definitely should be. Okay, so click here, the 3 dots, click share, and then make sure you get the permanent link. And then we're going to go back out of here into marketing, trigger links. And then once again, we're going to look for a trigger link that has, it's right here, initial interview calendar link. And then we just want to paste that in there like so, click save, and that's going to allow that workflow to fire. And through that email, they're going to be sent a link to the calendar booking. So they'll go through here. You can adjust the calendar, just going through the calendar settings exactly like you usually would to make sure that you only have a few slots available here. You don't want to have too many, or in terms of days, you definitely don't want to have this like weeks in advance. Keep it 2-3 days maximum so that everything's fresh and everything's moving in terms of the hiring process. We don't like to prolong this, okay? That's how that works. Back into automations here. Now we go through the third stage. So if I was just to hop it back into here, we've gone through all of this. For confirmed interviews, ensure they're booked on the relevant calendar and check conversation history to ensure appointment confirmation texts, or in this case, just emails, are being sent. So the very first thing of step 3 is sending that appointment confirmation email. So if I was just to hop out of here and into that third workflow, initial interview, the very first thing that we have is, or the trigger for this workflow is that an appointment has been confirmed, okay, on that exact calendar. Then we want to filter this by the job position. This is quite a big workflow, so we're going to walk through it step by step. Filtering by the job position, let's stick to the CSM for now. And then we send that appointment confirmation. Very easy, nice and easy, just date, time, location. You can have this as in person. It's just whatever appointment location is set on the calendar is what's going to appear here. Okay. And then here, we're just going to wait until after the interviews happen. So 1 minute after the interview, we're going to assign a task for the interviewer, whoever that was holding that interview, the assigned user. We want to add the tag skill test to their profile to update them on the hiring pipeline and assign their skill test. Otherwise, we want to add the tag unsuccessful to remove them from the talent pool completely. So basically, that's how that works. We just want to wait until the tag has been added by that interviewer if they like the look of them after that initial interview, or if you think that, you know, I could see how this person could integrate well with the team, then we want to go ahead and assign them a skill test. Now, I will say that depending on the position, you may not need to do this. For example, for our DM setters, for people that just set appointments for us through DMs, outbound DMs, we just update them through a different task here, click and drag them to offer potential. We skip the skill-based action or the skill-based test, and we also skip the final interview, and we just go, look, after that initial interview, I can tell you're probably going to just work well as an outbound DM. So this really does depend on the level that you're hiring for, because you can just do it as just click and drag them to offer potential and then go through that whole workflow, which we'll get into a little bit later. But let's assume that you do want to go through the 4 stages of hiring with this person. Well, then in that case, based on the condition of them having the tag skill test by the interviewer, you're then going to wait 2 hours after that interview, just because you don't want to be too irrational about this. You want to make sure, you know, I've thought about this. I've definitely had a few others before I've decided to go ahead and progress with this person. And then automatically they're going to be sent a skill test email. Now, this is what I got a little bit confused about earlier with the culture test. But in this case, really a skill test is something that you can create yourself. But there are going to be some examples of what they could be. Okay. And really a skill test is, think of it as a 30-minute task that you're going to essentially be booking on for a final interview. You just want to make sure that they're actually competent in what they say they can do. Because in the initial interview, you gauge a little bit of skill, a little bit of competency, but now you want to see if they can actually do the thing rather than talk about it. So that's what the skill test is about. It's a 30-minute, potentially online activity. So if as a coach, you're getting them to program for group classes, which feeds really nicely into getting them to actually then conduct that class that they've programmed for your members or for your team members. But for CSMs, it could be something very simple. So it's complete a 30-minute skill test, creating a 5-minute video, simulating a challenging client support situation. instructions, access the scenario details here. Again, you can create your own ones of these. I'm going to pop this open and just show you what one of ours would look like. So it's just a skill test. It takes them through a little bit of product knowledge about what we do. So for you, you just want to put the products you have, your facility or business, and then some more things that they might need just to understand your operations. And then they've had their skill test instructions. So for this one, create a 5-minute video addressing the following scenario. You're conducting an onboarding strategy call with John, a new gym owner client who's struggling to implement our program. John shared the following concerns. In your 5-minute video, introduce yourself, address their concerns, outline 2 to 3 key strategies that could help John overcome his challenges, explain how you would guide John, close the call with next steps and reaffirm support. So this is basically an in-person, or not an in-person, it's almost like an in-role simulation of what exactly they would be doing on their day-to-day. Key thing here, maximum 30 minutes to prepare for any of the skill tests that you have, and making sure that ideally it's something that's quite easy for you to review over. So I like to ask them to do to record a 5-minute video of you doing it, doing the thing, or it's just like a program that you can very easily just look over and see, you know, this person knows what they're talking about when it comes to group exercise, things like that. Okay. So that's a skill test that will manually have to be reviewed by you. So we can't automate from this point on, because we do need to make sure that people can do their job. But really what we're waiting for here, and what is instructed in this email, is for them to reply with their skill test completed. So yeah, that's the main thing. They need to make sure they submit their response ASAP to this exact email. That's all communicated in that Word document or sheet that I just went off. But yeah, so we're going to wait for them for 24 hours to respond to that email, because we're waiting for their response. And then from that point on, automated task set for the interviewer, review their skill test, add the tag final interview to their profile, to send an email to invite them to their final interview, or should say, or there, add the tag unsuccessful to remove them from the talent pool. Okay, good job. I'm reviewing this now. So yeah, then wait for the tag. So if they've either got the tag final interview or they've got unsuccessful, because after that skill test, you realize, oh no, they really don't know what they're doing. Or hopefully on the positive side, you realize actually they do know what they're doing and I want to invite them for a final interview. Well, in that case, they're either removed and they're sent an unsuccessful email, or they're sent a final interview invite email. Okay, now this is very simple. Just like the initial interview, we're sending them a link to that thing. It could be that, hey, this is our address, come on down on this date, this time. But yeah, key thing is here that we're for online, especially, we're asking them to schedule their interview here. It could even be for in-person. I'd recommend using that calendar so they schedule their in-person interview, and then just a little bit about what the interview will cover, pretty cut and dry. And then the interview will be via video call for us. This could be in person. Okay. Please select the time within the next 5 business days. All done. Save action. Now, here's where we get into a bit of logic with the workflow. So we want to wait. We want to give them 72 hours. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They've made it this far. We've invited them for the final interview. We like these people. So we're going to give them 3 days to click on that link. Okay, and to potentially book their final interview. Now, if they click on that link and they've booked it, so they're active in the booking workflow that we'll go through after this, then we just remove them. We don't need to bother these people anymore. They've moved to the next stage of the pipeline. If they haven't booked, so the trigger link timed out and they're not active in that workflow, then we need to add a task for the interviewer to do a bit of manual follow-up. So they've not booked their final interview. Please reach out to them via the phone and invite them to their final interview. And then the phone number there, or should say, add the tag, and I will fix these all for you all, or add the tag unsuccessful to remove them from the talent pool completely. Okay. Then we're going to wait another 72 hours, just wait for that task to be complete by that interviewer, by you potentially. And then after 72 hours, we go through the same thing again. If they're booked, we're removing them. If they're not booked after this point, because it's been 6 days since you invited them, we're going to add the tag unsuccessful. We're going to remove the opportunity. And then if they're unsuccessful, remove it from workflow. If none, remove from workflow. Okay, so we're just cleaning everything out from the pipeline, that's really how that works. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I didn't go over here, but I think we're all good. Yeah, so it is a bit more of a manual review here for the skill test. You are going to have to go through and check that that all looks good. That will be sent in conversations to you, basically via email. So you'll be able to look through it, look through how that looks through your conversations with the applicant here. And yeah, if it's a video, just watching it, just like the culture test. Now, hopping back into automation, and I want to quickly show you what the unsuccessful email looks like, because we've said if you add the tag unsuccessful, then it's going to take them here. So this is what that workflow looks like. Anytime that you don't want to pursue anything with any of your applicants, add the contact tag unsuccessful, and it's going to send them this email. This email, very simple. Your company recruitment, application update, your role at your company. Their name, thank you for your interest. After careful consideration, we regret to inform that your application will not be progressed further in our selection process. Key thing here is we're letting them down nicely. Okay, we're looking to pursue other candidates who closely match our current needs. So it's our current needs, it's not necessarily them. Okay, we were still impressed with them. Okay, so letting them down nicely. This can be sent to absolutely anyone, absolutely any job role. That's a nice thing about it. So that's all that. Just make sure that you obviously change the relevant things, or just make sure that it looks good. You can always send a test email to your personal email there, and then just make sure that everything looks good. In terms of adding that contact tag, super simple. Let's go back on Zack's profile, for example. Just open that contact. Well, that loads. Adding contact tags, very, very easy to do. We just want to scroll down here to the bottom, tags, and then we do unsuccessful. Should pop up there, and then you would just click it like that. That's how you'd update any of the tags through any of the workflows, okay? Now, heading back in, we are at this point onto the final interview to offer potential. So we've invited them to our final interview. The exact same process happens again. So once that appointment's been confirmed, zoom out a little bit here, depending on the job position, they will be sent an appointment confirmation about that final interview. Thank you for scheduling your final interview for whatever role that is, position at your company. This email confirms your appointment details. Once again, all done for you. Everything looks good. And then we want to, once again, wait after the appointment or after the interview takes place and add a task for the interviewer to either click and drag their profile to the offer potential to update them on the hiring pipeline and draft an offer to them, or add the tag unsuccessful to remove them from the talent pool completely. Okay, now those are the two options. Very, very easy from this point on. So if I was to hop into here, at this point, we are, at step 4 here. So wait until the final interview, wait for the tag update, or wait for them to basically be clicked and dragged. So let's put pipeline update there. Okay. Exit out of here. Cool. And yeah, so from this point, condition, very simple. Tag includes offer potential. Okay, so it is tags. Getting a little bit confused here. Tag update. So we're waiting for a tag update. Okay. So what will happen is once you drag someone to offer potential, we'll show this in the next workflow, they'll automatically get a tag of offer potential to their profile. So what that means is that then we can use logic here that if their tag includes this or includes that, then we can, once that tag happens, and this has no timeout, so just once either of these happen here, then we can basically know that, okay, offer potential's happened or unsuccessful's happened. Otherwise, they'll just be stuck here forever, okay? So that's how we clean up the workflow. Once we have offer potential, we can just move very quickly into that. So let's say we like them after that final interview. We've clicked and dragged them to offer potential. We want to remove any of the tags that they've accumulated up until this point. So skill test, final interview, and just add that tag offer potential to clean up that last workflow. So I've even put a little comment here, I think. Comment, yeah, adding the tag here to ensure workflow 4 fires correctly to clean up unsuccessful applicants from the pipeline. So that's all good. And then we just want to, once again, let's close that. There we go. assign this to the HR decision maker, because whoever's going to be making the final decision needs to be assigned at this point. It's likely that you may have people or different people in the calendars assigned as users in those calendars that are going to be hosting the interviews as to the final HR decision maker. So whoever that is that's going to be making the final call, make sure they're added as the user here. And then you can just remove from the workflow. And then we want to go back in to offer to hired. So let's zoom out a little bit of a second here. Let's just zoom out and see what we're up to. So pipeline offer stage to offer, or pipeline stage change to offer. Basically at this point, in between these two, you just want to make sure that you've done all of your final applications or all of your final interviews. And from that point, you want to look at people that are in your offer potential and essentially decide who is the applicant that you're going to be going with. Okay, so from that point, we can move the person that we decide to actually draft an offer to, or someone that you'd like to extend an offer to become a new employee at your company, and we click and drag them to the offer stage of the workflow. And once someone's been dragged to the offer stage of the workflow, then they enter this workflow here. So we filter this by the job position, and then very simple, we just want to add a task for the HR decision maker to draft up the CSMs or whoever's person this is, whatever role it is. We just want to remind them the exact role that it is here so they know the exact contract to draft up. But we're basically setting a task to draft up an offer and submit it to them to sign via email. And once both parties have signed that, we want to click and drag them to the hired stage of the hired pipeline, because up until that point, you've extended an offer at this point, but you haven't actually got them to sign on the dotted line to say, yep, I'm good to join the team. So we just want to make sure that we have a little workflow in between that section just to make sure. So offer email, very simple. I'm delighted to inform you we'd like to offer you the position, your impressive skills, experience. This is a brief overview of the offer. Again, it's very high level. Next steps, look out for a separate email containing your employment contract. And the reason why we send this is not to give them loads of information. It's just to not leave them in the dark and just to let them know, hey, we are going to extend an offer to you. Be on the lookout for that contract and make sure that you sign it in good time. And yeah, so from here, the workflow changes a little bit. We want to essentially, yes, we're at step 5 here. We want to essentially draft up the employee contract and sign it. So from this point, we're just waiting for you to manually come in here into payments, into documents and contracts. And let's say you've got a template here. Use template. This is an independent contractor agreement template I've got, but you may have other ones in there. And then you want to start drafting this up. So you can select a primary client. This is the person that you're going to be sending it to. And then set signing order. Or if you have more than one person, but otherwise just leave that as blank. And then make sure that you assign all of these points to you. Walk you through so you know exactly how to do this. To you. Payment. And then you just want to go through each of these things, reading through whatever document that you have for each person. It is a little bit of a headache, but hopefully the automations up until this point have been worthwhile. So the only thing that you would need to leave is the contractor's address on this particular one. They need to fill that out. And then, yeah, your name of client as you, your signature as you, signature, and then date, that's you. So that's basically done. And now I would be able to go in here and obviously fill in the particular date, day, month, year, their name, my name, all that good stuff. And then once that's been drafted, I click send here and send via email, and it would send it to that particular contact, whoever I've selected here. Okay. That's how we draft up the offer. And then from that point, if I was to hop out of here and just head into conversation. I was playing around with this earlier. See, we use this internally, but I wanted to make sure that these new workflows were definitely working for you guys as well. So it will look at something a little bit like this. Something a little bit like this. So it'll ask you to view the document. If I was to click on that, and then what will happen is your potential applicant will get this agreement. They'll have to sign where they need to sign, select the date, and then it will come back to you for you to also do that. Very simple for you to do that, and you just click a few buttons and submit. And then once that's happened, then you can click and drag them in the pipeline. If I was to go to opportunities, hiring, and let's say I had someone here, an offer potential, or sorry, they'd be on offer at this point. I click and drag them into hire. So if I was just to put a random person here, and then let's just have them here. Cool. And let's imagine they were an offer. Then once that's all been confirmed, I've seen it over email. You'll get an email once this has been done. Then I can click and drag them to hired. And that's going to fire our final automation in the hiring workflow. And that is hired to onboarding. So hired email, this is something you definitely can change about for yourself, but we always like to send an employee welcome email just to make sure that every single new person that we hire at the company is not left in the dark and they don't have hires remorse, because you can also have hires remorse the same way that you have buyer's remorse, where the new employees that you bring on, you need to set good expectations and make sure that they don't resent you, or they don't regret their decision to come on board on your team. Okay, so very simple, warm welcome to the team. Here's what you can expect. We're setting some general expectations. Once again, welcome aboard. And basically in this, we're saying, look, keep an eye out on other emails, other bits of information. We're going to add you to team chats, things like that. But we're not necessarily giving them lots of information here. We're just saying, welcome aboard. Here's what you can expect, sort of thing. And then from that point as well, you want to add a task for your HR assistant or for yourself, assigning this to yourself potentially. And then this is going to add a task for you to do certain employee onboarding things. So you can definitely change this about depending on your employee onboarding process. You can do things here, but for example, add this person, so whoever you've just hired, to the HR and payroll software, send them their employee handbook, give them a welcome call, make sure they've gone through the employee handbook, answer any questions, and then on their first day, invite them to the team group chat and send a welcome message. So that's that workflow. Other things you can add to this email, you could potentially go add an attachment and add your employee handbook if you have one built out. That employee handbook is going to come in handy, of course, for different things that new employee would need to know. So for example, you could attach your vision, mission, vision, mission, and just team guiding principle statements to that, so that they know everything about your vision, your mission, your core values. So that's some of the sort of things that you could add into your employee onboarding or your employee handbook, and you could add that to that first email there, and just once again click and save at the top for all of these. And yeah, I guess that is basically everything in terms of the easy hiring cycle. Once again, if anything does change, always checking this document, because that's where we're going to be putting the most up-to-date stuff. I'm sure things may look a little bit different to what I've just walked you through. We're always looking to improve things and make things a little bit better. But hopefully now you understand the 5 stages of the easy hiring cycle, and you'll be able to either send this exact training to somebody that you hope to be a HR assistant, or somebody to work through the hiring process on the software for you, or even if you're just doing this yourself, you can now do it with a bit of confidence. So that is all. Hopefully this has been helpful.